We'll present as many scenarios as possible and get some good discussion. Could be 2 or 3 scenarios, could be 7 or 8, but and we'll see how we feel at the end, if we want to go further. So this is the first safety seminar webinar here, 1 out of 3 leading up to our annual safety meeting, which will be April 11th at Emerson Aviation. That's in Guilford, New Hampshire. This one, I've prepared all winter a whole bunch of Condor replay scenarios, mitigating mid-air hazards that could plausibly or maybe nearly have happened at Franconia in all kinds of different ways that are maybe ways that we've even seen or some of you may relate to. Just thinking up, talking with different people about these different ways that we can have problems in a pattern, maybe in the thermals, up on a ridge, distractions. So I used Condor, created a whole bunch of flight replays. I then recorded the screen and then manipulated the camera during the recordings to get the best result, and then edited the video. Now I can share it for Zoom. It's optimized for Zoom. So it's not the highest resolution video, which actually makes it even more challenging to spot the traffic. I am able to highlight that by mousing over, and I'll occasionally go ahead and do that. You're going to see some pretty phenomenal scenery in Condor, and we're very fortunate because we have a member, Roland Mallet, and he has placed years of tremendous effort into making one of the finest sceneries for Condor, and you'll get a chance to appreciate that, and I appreciate all of the hard effort that he has put into that. One thing you might find is that the viewing might be a little choppy, just coming through Zoom. I've tested it out on several devices, and I find it's good enough. It could be better, maybe possibly uploaded later onto with a high definition into YouTube. So the format here is I'm going to introduce a video. I'll go ahead and load it up, and as we begin the video, I will probably pause in a couple of areas just to kind of give you an overview of where we are located, what type of operation we're doing, and then minimally narrate what's going on. And at the end of each one, I'd like you to consider, what could be done differently? How could we prevent such and such from happening? So if that sounds good, I think we'll get started. I haven't really picked out which ones. I made probably 20 or so examples. So I'm going to choose a smattering of different ones from the pattern. I think we'll begin with a couple of those initially, and then work our way to various other areas. All right, so here goes. The first one I'd like to show, I'm going to go ahead and screen share here, make sure you can see it. Hold on. To expand the zoom. I make sure I get the screen sharing just right here. Okay. All right. Here we go. Okay. So the first example I have for this evening, we are in a glider and we're flying a direct downwind for landing at runway 36. And you can see the airport down here on our left. And this is not a typical pattern entry, but it's acceptable depending on where you're located. And so as we're coming into this environment, the pilot is scanning the environment. And so we're looking all around and thinking about all the places that we might typically see glider traffic coming from. We're looking to the right. we're scanning down to the airport. We've completed our checklist, and we're making sure the runway's clear. And maybe about now you can see something. I don't know if, depending on whether you're looking, now it's pretty obvious. We've got our traffic right here. This traffic was coming in from the entry leg over the IP, and that's the typical standard pattern entry. So this is highlighting, this is a location that maybe if you're in that glider, you're not accustomed to looking to the left and making sure that nothing's coming down a downwind here on a direct entry. So now at this point, you'd have to modify and figure out what you want to do. And that's debatable, I think in my flying in, I was like, oh, I might as well go out to the outside. I'm behind them, and maybe I'll create some space and allow them to go in first. And that's that. All right.
Cool.
So I'd like to throw it out there to anybody who'd like to add some input to that. Any ideas on any input on what you'd like to do differently, or anything surprise you about that in where that traffic came from? When did you notice it?
One comment is that your downwind seemed a little tight.
Definitely seems tight.
Yeah. Yep,
Get out of
that
my
could
way.
be.
I was here first. Sorry.
I think another thing that is notable is that the pilot in the back who sees the other glider should make sure that the other glider knows that there's another glider in the pattern, because the person, as you said, may not be accustomed to seeing someone on the back portion of downwind.
Yep.
So make sure that both gliders know that there's another glider present, so that the first glider, let's say, doesn't land in the middle of the runway or doesn't land right at the beginning of the runway, to make sure that there's enough landing space for both.
Yeah, actually, interestingly, there's no radio ability in Condor, and so the radio is a huge way to enhance our situational awareness in the pattern. Sometimes batteries run out, and yes, Pete.
I would, one of the thoughts I would have in the back of my mind is spacing. Normally speaking, spacing should not be a problem. However, if you're the second glider, you're never really sure what the first guy's going to do. So if he flies a reasonable pattern, then you can follow him behind him easily. If he doesn't, let's say he extends his pattern, I've run across that, and that could put you not in a very good situation if you're behind him. Of course, it depends on what kind of airplane he's flying and what kind of airplane you're flying. If you're in the 233 behind him, he's got more ability to maneuver, and you're kind of subject to what he's going to do. So that's something that would be in the back of my mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, the varying performance characteristics and glide ratios, definitely a factor.
I don't know if you can follow.
Yes?
Can you hear me?
Yep, absolutely.
So two things I know. Of course, we don't know if he would radio or not. It would be good if it makes a difference. But when he made that turn, we were in his blind spot.
Yeah, this glider actually has with a mid wing. You can see from the glider that we're flying right now, you can see how that wing is actually. You're right. It does create quite a blind spot.
So second is, we are behind him and we're higher than him. So we have the luxury. We can hold in the spoilers and loiter and observe him. And of course, we should radio so that he knows we see him. And depending on what he does or doesn't do when he lands, we have the luxury to make allowances. We don't have to land in formation.
No, absolutely not. We can vary our glide, going wider, creating space. Maybe it's debatable, slowing down a little to decrease your descent rate, doing whatever you have to do, but maintaining control.
I would go from in sync and to give the biggest cushion between myself and them, and then hopefully they're one of the better pilots and they make a great landing, get right off the runway, and everything is slick as can be. But if they're a little shaky, that might not be the case, and we might have to do something clever, like land past them real short or before them real short. It could get more interesting.
I'm going to go ahead
and
go back to where we were prior to coming up to this glider, and I was wondering just at what point it became apparent that you could even see them from this vantage point, from this aircraft. So we're looking left here.
I think you got to share your screen again.
Oh yeah, did it bump out?
Yeah.
Thank you. I see it.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I was seeing it.
There we go. Now, interestingly, on this conversion, as these paths are converging here, you can see how that it's almost it's moving, but it's almost stationary, so it doesn't jump out too much. So it's a little bit of the blossom effect. All right.
So it definitely seems like that other glider is like way like far. You know what I mean? Like entering the pattern way too far to the south.
Yep.
But that's what it just appears from the video.
Yes. So there is some variation to the patterns. I noticed that maybe I have a habit. You'll find that a lot of my videos now, I think about it, I am a little bit too close in. So that might be something I have to think about in my actual flying, that I might spend a lot of time being close in on a pattern.
Yeah.
So that's a good point, Peter. That's something I'll take note of for my own flying.
It kind of depends what performance glider you're flying, but yeah, I definitely think even with a 233, if you're at the correct altitude, you're too close in. If you're low, maybe you're not too close in.
Yep. And this would have the effect of shortening the base and making things go a little faster.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next video. Another scenario here without spending too much time. Let's see here. I'd like to do another pattern video here. And this one is all about highlighting the right pattern for what we use, the opposite side pattern that the tow plane uses. In this case, we have a glider making a left downwind for 1.8. It's up here near the top of the mountain. You can barely see it. I had to use an external view flying a left downwind for 3.6 here because you couldn't see past the wing to see this traffic. So that's something to keep in mind, the obstructions of the aircraft. But if you can take note here, I'm following along the aircraft. This is something when I'm coming in for a landing in a bird dog or in a glider, I'm always scanning that other traffic pattern to make sure there's nothing coming. And so this helps to kind of know where to look generally, So this is two aircraft are approaching the same runway. And they're both the same the aircraft, they left the same place in the sky, so they meet exactly the same time. And of course, I stopped the video before it goes too far. So now here, this is from the other side, the other glider looking back across from the left downwind for runway 18 here at Franconia. And I can't pick it out just yet without starting it. I'm looking for apparent motion. Yes, here's the traffic.
See it.
Yep.
I don't see it.
It's right off the, not anymore.
I'm trying to highlight it with the mouse. But you can see how the clutter of the terrain can make it very difficult to see. So I made this one specifically to highlight that viewpoint. And now here we are on the short final. Let me go back to that screen here. Often we're looking at the runway, the immediate area where we're planning to land, looking at the aim point, and how often do you scan the extended final and the pattern? And I'm hoping that this type of video helps to raise that awareness. Any comments?
Yeah, just one comment, and that is obviously both gliders, once you see the other glider, both gliders should keep to their right, roll out to their right a little bit, and
Absolutely.
and as soon as you see the other glider, you should plan on landing as short as possible, just to reduce. You give the other glider more runway. You know what I'm saying? If both gliders reduce, open full spoilers and try to land as short as possible, it would help.
Yeah, that would greatly minimize the effect. Like once you identify that they're a hazard, but this does go to show that even when you think you've got the runway made and nothing's coming, if you didn't
Right.
scan that extended final,
Yeah.
you better be ready to make that right turn or come up short and stop as soon as possible.
Yep.
Well, the natural focus at this point is on the aim point, which is not the other end of the runway.
Absolutely. A lot of people are very focused. They're I don't know if you
Well,
can.
at an early point in your career, it's perhaps all you can do to get a good glide
True.
slope, focusing on that and learning how to do that. And you might not have much brain left over.
Yeah. All your residual attention is highly focused on that.
Right.
I appreciate you pointing that out.
I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I'm saying that's natural. And this, hopefully, every time I do it from now on, I'll think to peek up at the other, just in case. I suppose if the wind were very quiet, you could have landing going in both directions, or somebody got back with not enough altitude, so they were forced into a downwind landing, in which case they'd have a lot of pucker power. They should be expecting somebody coming the other way.
There is a point I'd like to make and see if I can find it in the. This is the advisory circular for see and avoid the pilot's role in collision avoidance, and there's some good notes about. Let's see if I can find it. Narrow field of vision and tunnel vision. So when we are highly focused on an object, or like if we're using our focused vision on, say, looking at the aim point, and we're not keeping track of the peripheral vision, what happens is that with focused vision, we're not seeing the apparent motion of other objects, such as traffic. So being aware of having a what do you call it? Not the focused vision. It's the being aware of the apparent motion of things. It's escaping me right now. Your peripheral vision. That's what I mean.
That makes sense.
So if all set with this one, we could go on to the next one. Sound good?
Sure.
I think I have a couple that are really good for pattern. One has to do with termination of tow that occurs on a rope break. I think we should take a look at that. So again, we're on this left downwind for runway 18. There's the Easton Valley and the fields ahead of us. The pilot's, again, a little bit close in, as Peter has noted. What do we notice down here? We have traffic departing. Now in Condor, in certain replays, it does not show the tow plane. So this is a glider that is following a tow plane that you can't see, but it's heading out.
Just for clarification, I think you said you were on left down for 18, but I think you meant left down for 36.
Yes, left downwind for 36. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah.
So there is a glider departing on runway 36. And off it goes. And I hope this is not too stuttery on your end.
A little bit, but not bad.
So at this point, the departing traffic is off in this area. And you might be able to see it. So again, the pilot is focused on an aim point. You may notice all of these aircraft have a flarm in them. So when this is blinking red and flashing, you can see that this, where I'm highlighting, indicates that there's a target ahead and it's at the same altitude. Not a good place for that to be. And I think it's becoming obvious to the pilot now, and now they're doing something about it. It did not become obvious to them.
Right.
So we ended up dragging a wingtip a little bit. I'm going to skip the external view and go ahead and put us into, this is a slightly different scenario. It's the same thing, but the outcome is slightly different. We are in the other aircraft, which ended up doing a rope break. So here we're going to launch. Remember, we have an aircraft on downwind for 36, and we're launching out behind a turbine-powered tow plane.
Cool. $200 feet.
Oh, something's wrong with the tow plane. And there's the wing rock.
Does that look familiar, Scott?
Hell yeah.
Okay, I pause it here. Do you remember the traffic? I hope I'm flying all right here. Okay, so here is our traffic here. So at this point, this pilot's become aware of it and makes a correction. So way different outcome. And I just have some more external views of this. I'm going to jump ahead to the end just to see the tow plane view.
Hmm.
And I think you could see, yep, just in that last frame there. Here's our other traffic. Trying to move my window around so it's not blocking my view. I didn't mess up my share, did I? my screen share? Okay,
Still sharing.
good.
Yep.
Yeah. And you can see we have the golf cart with a wing runner over here, walking the wing, and a lot of ground, things that we need to avoid in this instance. But that's what it could plausibly look like if we had that type of event. So that was probably a pretty nerve-wracking experience right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, Pete?
A couple of things I would just throw out. I've never seen this happen, but we don't do a lot of practice rope breaks, and we very rarely see an actual premature termination of tow, but it does happen occasionally.
Please don't say that.
And one thing I think what we don't think about is the communication. Now, if it's let's say it's a tow plane problem, and then the tow plane he's too busy flying the airplane to do anything else. The guy who is getting towed, he's too busy to do much else. But it's important if either one of them is not making a radio call, which they're probably not, to alerting other traffic, then there are other people that are probably watching. For instance, the wing runner, hopefully he's got a radio. Several things. He should be briefed by somebody that there's going to be a rope break, because he's in a position to see if there's anybody outside the downwind that's coming in that might interfere. So he's the one that's got to be able to stop this takeoff from happening, because there's going to be interference from landing aircraft. If he doesn't know there's going to be a rope break, then he sees somebody, it looks like there's plenty of spacing, and then all of a sudden there's a rope break and it's, whoa, now we're in trouble. So he's in a position to alert them. Also, anybody on the ground that happens to have a radio, if they see what's happening, just getting on the radio and saying something as simple as rope break, rope break, rope break. Just everybody knows now who's listening, and that may not be everybody, but it certainly hopefully alerts the guy who's landing so that he can address this a little bit sooner rather than rolling out on final and seeing it.
I think that highlights the importance of just about everybody on the field. Maybe not the people who are there to go for a ride that don't know anything about aviation, but everybody could be taking a look at what's going on in the sky and just having an awareness. Any person, wing runner, duty officer, but does highlight I know that if too many people jam the radio at the same time, that's another consideration of just making. So it's always it's dicey to figure out how to work that out and without getting a jammed radio. But that's another thing to talk about altogether.
Yeah, the thought occurred to me that for an uncontrolled airport, when we're running, we're maybe one of the busiest around.
Absolutely.
And this kind of comes from my recent instrument training, which I have sort of stalled on, but standardized verbiage for communication really helps in a busy communicating environment. And maybe we ought to be thinking up phrases that are the standard phrase you say for, the 10 most likely situations. You can't come up with everything, but a few things you ought to have very standardized. And everybody knows what to say, and they aren't kind of making up their own thing on the, oh, gee, by gosh, run,
Yeah, I like the rope break, rope break, rope break. That's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
clear.
Well, one comment I have, Colin, I like the fact that you had a glider with a golf cart on the runway, and I think that just highlights the importance of always staying as far to the side as possible when you're towing gliders back to the takeoff point, as opposed to just thinking, "Oh, I'm clear of the main runway." No, you should be even further to the side. There's no reason to be encroaching at all on any portion of that runway. Stay as far to the side as possible.
Interestingly, Pete, we have this is a person right here, and they have not lowered the wing. So it's like the worst kind of obstruction you could have down by the tennis courts. But yeah, it does highlight, that's a possibility of in that event, we could have that situation complicating it. Are we ready to go to the next one?
Sure.
All right, great. Be nice to go through as many as possible. I'd like to go, I haven't really chosen which one. I'm just kind of going at random. This one, let's go with a sun glare issue. Yeah. Ooh, right there. This pilot, let me see if I can get that. You could see where the sun glare was a real issue for this pilot. They're turning left base for runway 18, landing at the end of the day. Sun is flat on the horizon. It's in their face. Everybody's coming out of the sky, and some people might be a little bit low and can't fly the regular pattern. And again, that's not a very pretty pattern. They're a little high. And whoa, what is that? Okay, again, now this highlights how intense that sun glare is in the pilot's eyes. I think this happens just about every day that the tow pilot flies. They get to the end of the day and they have to make their base leg into the sun. There's always some type of environmental situation that's kind of limiting visibility. So this very well could be the tow plane coming in on a base. And then you have that late day final glide. So there's our conflicting traffic.
Yeah, yikes.
I've always heard of this one. I've always been trained to keep a lookout, and I think way back I remember there was a member who would regularly fly a long straight in approach at the end of the day, and so we're always warned to be aware of this. And I don't think I've seen many people doing it lately, but this is essentially what could happen.
One thing that all pilots should do is on base leg, you should be looking, take a look to the to your right to make sure there's no one on final that's further out.
Absolutely. And that's kind of counterintuitive. I think a lot of people are looking at that landing area and again focused. But this highlights the importance of doing just that, Peter. So now we're in a straight-in aircraft, slightly different situation, but there's the aircraft on base. And notice that they're now ahead of this glider, not behind it, but still same scenario. And so there's that one.
Well, there's one thing about that glider following. He's higher.
Yes.
He has to make the airport. So he's going to drop his nose.
Yep.
So he was slower and he was behind. If he's really clever about it with spoilers and a slip, maybe he can manage to not overshoot the plane below him, who maybe doesn't know he's there. But the whole thing could get very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably in that sudden moment when you have something jump out at you, I think that maintaining your composure and making sure that you just keep flying the aircraft and don't let yourself become tunnel vision. And I could see where you could get in that moment. You could become so distracted that you gain too much speed and overshoot the airport possibly, and do everything wrong. So yeah, you have to do some quick thinking.
The time of day also makes the situation more unpredictable because
Absolutely.
you're less likely to know whether the pilot's just going to land as soon as they can to maybe get a tow back to the end of the runway, or whether they're trying to go to the tie down or to their trailer. So you have two different scenarios instead of you can very often count on people just going off the runway as soon as possible instead of just slowly rolling down the end of the runway to their tie down.
Very good point. Are we ready for the next one?
I got one more comment,
Yep.
Colin. These are situations that the radios are really beneficial.
Absolutely.
It's good to allow, in this case, the person who's ahead, allow them to know that you're behind them, so they can, maybe they were just going to plan on, just land and not paying a lot of attention to where they're going to land or where they're going to stop, but being aware of that somebody's behind you, it may very well change the nature of your touchdown or rollout and save everybody's bacon. So we can't be on the radio enough in terms of announcing our positions when we know there's other gliders in the area. Could be a glider ahead of us, could be a glider behind us.
If you're overtaken and you should pass on the right, if he does the normal thing and turns to the right to get out of the way, he can turn into you. It'd be good if he goes long or short and you go long and make an agreement.
It's pretty hard to coordinate at that point, but that therein lies the problem. You both have to make decisions on where you're going to go. If you had a little time to communicate, that's great, but you may not.
Yeah, your radio might be in your lap, and short final might not be the time to be able to take your hand off the control to get it.
Exactly.
Depending on how you have the radio configured. It also could be the tow plane in this instance too. You could exchange one of these aircraft for the tow plane, and they could have some radio issues too. I know that can be a challenge. Yes, Glenn?
Well, you mentioned that. I was just going to say, usually in a short final, your hand's on the spoiler, your other hand's on the stick. And depending which glider you're in, you may not have a push-to-talk switch. So trying to get to your handheld radio is not a priority at this point. It's the aviate, and can communicate is last. But yes, it's important. But you may not be able to get to that handheld because your hands are busy unless you have a push-to-talk switch and a regular built-in radio.
This might be a good reason to acquire one and get that capability. If it gives you just that much more reach to get to the radio if you need it.
Definitely.
I'd like to move on to the next one, see if we can get a few more of these in. I'd like to move on to some tow situations, some release procedures. Let's see. It's one particular. Looking for it. There we go. I'm going to skip ahead. I didn't always put the videos in order the way I like it. I need to re-edit them. So what we have here is high performance glider has launched from runway 36, and you can see that we're just past 300 feet. And we're about ready to release for whatever reason we decide to release. And so whatever happens next we'll see. So they've committed to releasing, and now they're scanning the area to the right, making sure it's clear, and they're off. And they're immediately thinking, let me get configured for landing. I'm going to enter that left downwind for 3-6. They're scanning. I stopped the video here because even though they looked in that direction, they didn't see it. So a couple other views of this. Here we have the tow plane. There's the release. The tow plane's doing as expected. It's making a left turn. Now this was not really proper. You know, the other glider turned way further than 90 degrees, doubled back onto the tow plane's flight path, and the tow plane's just thinking, I'm going to get back to the airport as soon as possible. And for whatever reason, if you notice here, this glider is practically stationary. I'm going to go back a little bit. Notice when you actually begin to see this glider become apparent with its really sleek profile. Right there.
Oh, yeah.
This one is kind of menacing because if you look down here at the shadow, and everybody went home. Nobody ran into anybody. I tried not to actually run into people in these scenarios. You know, that just as near as possible and being convincing. Okay. Any discussion?
Well, it's very non-standard. Like instead of the tow plane being far away, the tow plane turned, and that put them on downwind on the side of the field that they're not normally on downwind.
Absolutely. Yep. That is a Condor situation. Condor doesn't care about our right pattern for the tow plane. So
you couldn't tell it? I thought you told it this. Okay.
Oh no, I have to kind of manipulate it and hope that it'll. In fact, Condor, depending on how you configure, since in Europe, in Australia, they sometimes have a right turn with the tow plane when they release. So Condor will either turn. It's going to turn whatever direction after tow release to return to the airport as quickly as possible. So if the airport is 179 degrees to your right, it's going to the tow plane's going to turn in that direction. So you have to kind of configure Condor in just such a way to get it to make a left turn, and then it chooses its pattern. So, which, yeah, very non-standard situation, but plausible.
Well, my comment, Colin, is if I have a early release on a tow out as a tow pilot, I continue climbing and get out of the way and let the glider take the priority. I would never turn immediately back thinking I'm going to beat him in at 300 feet.
Excellent point. Even on pattern tows,
I don't think anyone would.
Though sometimes on pattern tows, even quick turnarounds, it's kind of sometimes the tow plane does make it back to the airport before, depending on, you know, whatever factors. So I could see that's like about as close as we get to that. But I agree with you, Peter. Climb away in a tow plane, get out and away.
Right, and as you mentioned in a pattern tow, sometimes as a tow pilot, I'll beat the glider in, but I'm always prepared to do the go around if my timing's off.
Yep, it's about as close as you can cut it in a bird dog.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead and if we're all set with this one, move on to another towing one. This came at Jim's. I was talking with Jim the other day, and he mentioned, hey, it'd be nice if we had a house thermal situation. And so I figured let's throw the tow plane in here. We're towing up to Middersole, and somehow I got Condor to do this right. I needed it to make a left turn, and I needed a thermal at Middersole. That was my hope. So I had to get the weather conditions just right. You're going to notice that this is an exceptional thermal. Just ridiculous, but it works. So we're scanning. I'd feel a little bit uncomfortable flying the tow plane towards the terrain like this, but you can see it works out.
I noticed that Condor does like to fly straight into the mountains sometimes.
Yeah, it will double back, but it doubles back much too late compared to real life, like how I would feel. And I don't typically fly right at terrain. So that was a really, like the variometer here is pegged out, and we do have a glider hanging out here in a house thermal here over Middersole. And whether the pilot's seen it or not, it could be a busy day on a ridge. Definitely a bit uncomfortable there. You can see.
Yeah.
There's some bears down there on the ridge. Thank you, Roland. And there's our tow plane. Here's our glider. And we're just cruising away from that situation.
Right over the top of the tram.
Yep. We've got our other glider here. I don't know if you noticed, but my variometer is extremely high. It gives you a little ticker tape readout here, which is just phenomenal. I was trying to get a thermal to work. I didn't realize I'd get it to work that well here.
You probably have some ridge lift.
Yeah, it had a little bit of a southwest wind to it too, which is kind of weird. So here's our tow plane view. Condor has a phenomenal camera setup. Like you can go back and see probably better than any sim I know in terms of view control. We've got the release. And you might even notice that this pilot's head they're just straightforward looking. They're not even looking out to the side. I mean, it's going to because it's a sim, but you can see that we have the glider just, at this point, it should be filling your windscreen. There's a tow plane right there. And then the tow plane's going to track back to the airport there. So that might be a relatable experience there. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that type of situation?
The normal thought, of course, is with the radio, hopefully everyone's identifying traffic,
All right. So if we're all set with that one, if anybody has anything else to add to it, I know this could be helpful for our tow pilots. Just ways
I
that
think I think that anyone that low on the ridge over Mittersill has got to be aware of what's taking off. You can see the runway. Keep it in mind that there's other aircraft launching and possibly pulling off right exactly where you are, low over
absolutely.
Mittersill.
Yep. It's not uncommon to see people spending a lot of time at Mittersill, hoping to capture something before they commit to going back to the airport. And it is often the first place we tow people to. Yes, Pete?
That I think over the years, and I noted especially last year, this whole area that you're showing is becoming much busier than it has been in the past. And keeping track of other airplanes over there is extremely important because you may not see somebody right away. You have a fairly low profile glider turning or maybe coming directly your direction. You really got to be very careful. And on a good thermal day, it's okay to go there to get started. You're seeing more 2,000-foot tows also than we used to have. Normally, that whoever does that doesn't hang around very long, but it's a high threat environment right over that Mittersill area.
Absolutely. Yeah, and also tow pilot fatigue. That's another factor. After launching the Great White Fleet, past the lunch hour, you can get a lull in your attention as a tow pilot, and that can hinder your ability to see and avoid. I don't know if others agree with that, but something I've experienced.
Very definitely.
I have right-of-way questions and comments versus common sense going in my head. So the tow plane towed glider combo, they have right-of-way up until the point when they release. Then the tow plane should yield. But what makes the most sense?
I believe
the glider that's circling, if he gives up on that thermal, he may end up having to just go back to the airport.
Yeah, absolutely. The tow plane towing a glider has a right of way over other powered aircraft. But I believe that this glider would have to have let's see. We'll have to go back and look at 9113. So I'll go ahead and but that's a good question. But
my
in this case,
recollection was that the tow plane, when they're towing a glider, is a special case because as a tandem duo, they don't have the maneuverability that a lone aircraft does.
Yeah, I would say that right about here, at this moment, if you were in this glider being towed and you saw this, would you stay on tow or would you release immediately?
I'd use a radio and say to the tow plane, you
Yep.
see the glider at
Yep.
1 o'clock.
You talk about right away. We have rules, yes, but right away is not something you want to insist on in an airplane.
Or if you're a pedestrian.
Yeah, if you can get out of somebody's way, that's what you want to do. It's not like walking down this sidewalk on in a busy city when there's You know, you can't claim any space for yourself just because you're bigger or you're walking on one side of the sidewalk or other. So anytime you're up there and there's other airplanes around, your first thought should be, you know, don't crowd them, get away from them, regardless who is right away.
Agreed.
I'd like to move on just to maybe get one or two brief ones in and then call it a night so that we don't go too long. We could certainly talk about these all through the season in many different capacities.
Colin, can I make one comment on that scenario?
Yes, please.
Good. And this is kind of for the tow pilots. I have seen this, although it's limited, which is actually probably pretty good. But this is a good scenario too to be thinking about in terms of some people and some tow pilots have the desire to have the tow plane center up and with them in a thermal. That would add so much more risk to this given scenario. If
oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah. And typically doing 2,000 or 3,000 foot tows, as we only need to do, rarely is there ever a need or a desire to do that. I just bring it up because I had two circumstances last year with a tow pilot trying to be helpful to me, but entering a thermal very close to the airport at low altitude. And the second time it was with somebody else scraping, trying to get back up in that same thermal. And, you know, it just, that can add risk, a lot of risk in some of these scenarios.
Very good point. Yes, I've experienced, I have towed people in thermals at their request where, you know, they say, stay in a thermal and it's worked out great. But then I've been behind as an instructor with tow pilots that just took me for quite a ride, and it was very steep turning and not very comfortable.
Yeah, that's probably a great point as a tow pilot, if they ask and you're comfortable given all the circumstances with, you know, your theory of that situation, terrific. But
it's
just
like an agreed upon formation flight.
Yeah.
Yeah, but were you spiraling in the thermal?
I've been on both ends of the rope in a thermal, either towing a glider with somebody who I was in very good contact with and very well agreed with lots of very keen, like very, very fine, you know, steepen bank, lessen bank, that kind of discussion, speed up, slow down. And it was very well coordinated. And then I've been also as an instructor with a student suddenly whipped into a thermal behind a tow plane. And that was a very different experience for my student and for me. So yeah, I can see where in this situation your awareness of other traffic when you're thermaling with a tow plane that would significantly increase the risk, especially if you're near the airport or near a house thermal. So
I'm surprised.
I'd like to go on maybe one more. How are we doing? It's 8 o'clock. We've been at it for 1 hour. I don't want to go too long. We can certainly find other times to talk about these types of scenarios. Would it be all right if we do one more?
You're doing fine.
Okay, great.
Yep.
This is the highlight of my evening.
Fantastic. I have one that with a different kind of release procedure that I learned about from Scott Manley, who's he has been providing the simulated online flight training experience through the SSA, and I've been following through all of his webinars, and he has a renegade approach to tow release where everything is normal. The tow plane goes left, you go right, you clear, you do all the normal release procedure, But instead of losing sight of the tow plane, you make sure to keep it in sight. And I recreated my own version of that here. So here we're scanning. We're about ready to release. Tow plane goes left. But now we keep our eyes on that tow plane and we never lose them. Now, I wonder what kind of debate this would raise with instructors and tow pilots or, in our community. But I thought it was pretty neat.
Really
Because,
more common than you think. I'm at a commercial operation this weekend, and that's what they do. I know another large commercial operation on the West Coast that they teach the same exact thing.
yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
what's on the practical test. You have to do the other, what's required of the practical test, but might be a good idea to ditch that once you get your license.
Yeah, I always try to keep an eye on the tow plane, but if I turn right, I do a sharper turn, knowing that I'm going to come around and see that tow plane, and reacquire it.
Yep.
But either way, I think it's important to watch that tow plane, and something that a lot of glider pilots don't understand that aren't tow pilots, that the tow plane doesn't immediately descend. It may slow up and continue climbing while it's reducing power to get to flap speed.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's
Getting that
something
energy to be let off there.
exactly. And I think a lot of glider pilots, tow pilots, don't realize that the tow plane is going to continue to climb for a few hundred feet.
I've definitely seen that many times.
I'm going to see if I can get a couple more in, just briefly.
Good.
All right. I want to do the distraction one with the flight computer. Let's see. Let's go for it. Okay. We are, 5,700, 5,800 feet over Cannon. We're heading off to Lafayette. We've reached this altitude where we feel very comfortable with crossing the notch, and we're going to proceed over the Franconia Ridge. And while we are flying wings level, we decided to go heads down, and we're going to play with the flight computer, and we're just going to take that time to be a little bit bored with looking out. And as we're progressing along here, we look up and there's another glider on its way to Kinsman. It's returning from Twin and has had plenty of time having fun out there, returning home, heading back to Kinsman. And by the way, it's going to take the same route across the way. And we're just very fortunate that we're 20 feet of spacing. So this is all about distraction and keeping your head in the cockpit and when you should be looking out. Other notes about this could very well be a general aviation aircraft, as that we do have a lot of sightseeing aircraft that fly, in this altitude range up here in Franconia. So any thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is Pete. I had this exact situation in the exact same place quite a few years ago, although separation was a little bit more. And not a cloud in the sky, perfect day, and I thought I was paying attention. The other guy thought he was paying attention, but we got pretty close. And for me, it ruined a perfectly great, it was really a great soaring day, but it was ruined because I allowed that other aircraft to get pretty close to me before I saw him. And the same thing for him. We talked about it after. And it's just one of those things you can just never, ever stop rubbernecking and concentrating on what's out there. Because when you do, something's going to bite you in the butt.
I think that this is avoidable. this type of accident. It might be different if it's an A10 going 300 knots, but you might not see that coming. But given that we are in a spot that is here, over Cannon, transiting from ridge to ridge, this is a place where we could expect the traffic to be. So yes, I totally believe, probably more than a few people have had this occasion here.
I've had times when I knew there were, say, 3 gliders in the sky with me, and I could only see 2 of them. And seeing everything that's there to be seen is not a trivial thing. You got to really work at it.
Absolutely. Yep.
I did go to the eye doctor and get the new prescription too.
That raises a really good point about being in the best shape that you can be for flying, making sure that you're hydrated because, or that you've had enough to eat and you've got enough fuel for your body. You're feeling well, you don't have a cold or anything. Because even if you're a healthy person, if you're degraded by any type of, condition, dehydration or whatnot, you could have a limitation or just not have the awareness that you normally do.
Yep, definitely.
And that's also something on the field that we could spend some time making sure that in the morning we're checking in with each other, making sure that before somebody launches, making sure they're, we all know each other pretty well. If something's off, make sure we check in with each other to make sure we're safe to fly. All right, I'd like to go on to another if we're good with that. Particularly, let's see, thermal sharing. That sounds like fun. This is a bad example of sharing a thermal. Why is it a bad example?
Guy in front doesn't know you're there.
Yeah, that's right. So you see them all right, but you get befuddled with something, and next thing you know, they're gone. Where'd they go? You look up and what happened?
Now they're below you.
Oh, there they are. So I went ahead and pushed it a little bit. This might not be as convincing. I might have been trying a little bit, but there we got very close. We still didn't touch though. No bent ailerons or anything like that. So I don't know how many people do share thermals. It's been pretty rare for me as I haven't been out. But if you do, you want to have some pretty good communication and line of sight. Yes, Elia?
So it's easy to it's relatively easy to maintain a 180-degree separation between 2 gliders of the same type. So let's say they have the same wing length or they fly at the same speed. But when you're flying in a thermal with, let's say, something a 126 and a 233, they have entirely different circling patterns.
Absolutely.
And there's no way to maintain that 180 degrees. So is there any solution to that? Should we just not circle in the same thermal? I've been in that situation where I try to at least keep vertical distance, if not, I guess, horizontal distance.
Well, I don't know if
think
the
you can
other
make adjustments.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't think there's no way. I think you can make adjustments, but I haven't demonstrated it.
So I guess you could fly the 126 at a slightly faster speed and less bank than the 233 at max bank.
Precisely.
But it's just a little bit
you
hard.
may end up outperforming him, but
I don't know if it's a good idea, like early on in your flying, to be trying to share thermals with other people until you're really much more advanced in flying. I don't know what other instructors think, because it does take a lot of coordination and knowing the other pilot really well. I know in competitions they do it all the time. These two gliders here are exactly, they're duo discus, and this is what it looks like when it's done. What I think is, as best as I could do, right. Both gliders can see each other. And you can see that
that's the key point. Don't put yourself in a position where the other glider cannot see you or know that you're approaching him.
absolutely. And if you lose sight in a thermal, you can the consequences are drastic and very quick. That you will likely have a collision. And so just exit. I thought it would be kind of neat to see what would happen if they ended up in a cloud. Both these duo discuses have attitude indicators. So I kept flying as far as I could into the cloud. Don't do this in real life. But
Hey, Colin.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Yeah, no, don't do this. But
Hey,
you can
Colin.
see, yes.
Yeah, I wanted to mention one thing. These are inevitable on the scant days where you have that one big thermal over Mittersill.
Yep.
And I've been in one, I think, with as many as 4
Wow.
in there. And I was usually the last guy in on some of these. And so I would just keep looking like up until it got to the point where, and another thing to tell the new guys too is that you don't want to stay below somebody, because all they got to do is turn a little bit too much and they enter a spiral dive. And
I did create one that was a
yeah.
little messy with that. I didn't play it tonight, but I remade it because I did have a glider stall down through a thermal past one, but it doesn't take much. A little bit in attention and wing drops. And you lose 300-400 feet. That's that could definitely end up in somebody's canopy. So let's see. It's 8:13. I really don't want to go too far with this. I mean, if you're having a good time, we could do more. I made quite a few of these. What do y'all think?
I think
I may need I can do another one, but I may need to pull away because I'm getting kind of uncomfortable in my position here.
Got it. I'm going to do one that's very dramatic. Okay. Peter, do you have something to say?
No, I was just gonna say I appreciate you doing all this, and I think it's great information. Very valuable information.
I agree.
So I was curious, what if you launched as late as you possibly could? What would happen? And I don't know how I timed this, but we'll see what happens. You saw that glider on a base. Now, Condor's launching procedures are slightly different than our having a wing runner. The tow plane comes out, it hooks up, your wings are leveled by the invisible wing runner, and off you go. Launching from 3.6 here. Anybody knows what happened there?
Shadow on the left.
Shadow on the left. It's going to continue. There we go. And the shadow's gone. So the bears represent the fence. That's from what I know from Roland. Here's the glider on base, turning final. I had to calculate how long it took to get the launch going and kind of time it, but It took a couple tries. So we have our glider here being launched. Might be hard to see, but and there's our landing glider wallowing about. And they're off. If the pilot could look over their shoulder the whole time, this is what it looked like. They could almost reach up and touch the landing gear.
Yeah.
Didn't really make much of an effort to any evasive maneuvers
No.
there. He was going to land right on the plane.
Yep. Now I have to say that that was a ghost I had created. That was just I made it months ago and I just used it. So when I say ghost, the aircraft that I saved its flight track is called a ghost in Condor. You can fly right through it. You can't collide with it. It's just but no, there certainly would have been some evasive action. You're right.
And that's down to a wing runner failure.
Yep.
Two comments. One thing that we all should be aware of is even if you can get off in time, it's that you always got to be aware that there could potentially be a rope break.
Yes.
Yes.
The departing glider may have to turn around and come right back into the landing glider. And the other thing I would say is that if you're the landing glider here, realize that they're going to quickly accelerate and get out of your way. So not just as not to panic, as in other words.
Yeah, if I was in this landing glider and I could full well, there's no doubt in my mind, I see what's going on here. I'd be moving to the right.
Yeah.
And, landing as short as possible. But any type of emergency in this situation, it would be a terrible, terrible situation.
Right.
I made that one because I was just very curious about it, just how late you could push it with a glider coming in and landing. And I know that we have a bit of an ambiguous, it depends on, the day and who's flying, who's a tow pilot, who's the pilot, who's a wing runner. Sometimes at some point we have to make a decision as to when to launch or not to launch based on traffic that's incoming. And factoring in, of course, any type of takeoff emergency and what to do.
Right.
So,
and radio communication as well.
yes, absolutely. I know I was having a conversation with Steve a few weeks ago about if you're coming back to the airport, let's say, you've been out for a couple hours and maybe you're a high performance pilot and you're 10 minutes out, you might radio landing in 10 minutes or landing in 5 minutes and then giving regular position calls just as an awareness to the people on the ground, having just a little bit more situational awareness as to what's coming on this field, what's going to be happening, cluing people in. I kind of like that idea. Don't know what anybody else thinks about that, but
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I'll announce that I'm descending wherever, landing in 5-10 minutes.
I think it gives a tremendous amount of spatial awareness, or as to where everybody is. So I'm going to leave it at this one. I don't want to go too far with this presentation. There's certainly much more. You could take any one of these and probably open it up for a long discussion. And that's what I hope, is that we can gain a little bit more of a need to keep our eyeballs nice and sharp and be more vigilant than we expect. Be suspicious all the time, even though we're up there having a good time. We need to be suspicious of what's coming around every corner. Always maintaining that vigilance. at all times. And even for people on the ground. I did actually make a couple of videos of just what it looks like to have a wing runner view. Like this is what it would look like to stand on the end of 1-8 and see an aircraft on a midfield downwind for 1-8. And skipping around here, here's what it looks like on 3-6 for a wing runner looking at an aircraft coming on the base for 1-8. Just for people on the ground, duty officers, wing runners, pilots getting ready to launch, anybody having an awareness of what's going on in the sky and what's coming into the airport, and not just paying attention to what's in front of you. We can all benefit from that spatial awareness.
Yep.
Any questions? I think that's a good place to end it.
I just had one comment, Colin. I think we see this. We probably all see this, not often, but often enough. Our decision making sometimes should be based on the lowest common denominator.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
what I mean by is, you have a tow pilot, you have a pilot, you have a wing runner, and if any one of those three doesn't like what they see, then the launch doesn't continue. Sometimes the tow pilot may not be able to see what's going on in the pattern to his left. In this case, you've got a wing runner who's got some traffic on downwind or in the approach area someplace, and the pilot might have said, "Well, we got room. Let's go. Let's go." And the wing runner is thinking, especially the wing runner, because sometimes he's the least experienced of everybody, and he's not sure that it's a good idea to launch right now. But the guy in the airplane says, "Yeah, let's go. We got time." Maybe the approach that everybody should take is, if one guy's not happy with, what's the rush? Because we all do tend to rush once in a while, and sometimes we should just stop and rethink it.
The only one exception I'd say to that, Pete, is sometimes all three aircraft, i.e., the tow plane, the departing glider, and the landing glider, are all in radio communication, and the wing runner doesn't have a radio.
Yeah.
And if all those three aircraft agree, yeah, you've got time. Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's up to the tow pilot and the glider pilot, and it's unfortunate that the wing runner doesn't always have a radio because they're kind of out there in the cold.
Yeah, that's always a problem.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So solo pilots should have their own radios and leave the club-owned radios for the wing runners.
Yep. And maybe it would be good if every pilot had their own radio. That might be asking a little bit too much of some, but if you've gotten so far as to have a license, you should have your own.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
Yeah, like I know my radio, and I'm not familiar with the club ones, so I always have a radio on me, my radio, because the buttons are different, and like it's definitely better to use the same radio every time, I think.
Yeah.
I was radio shopping today.
Did you buy it?
Not yet.
You got a few weeks.
Yeah, I could definitely improve my handheld so that I have maybe a vest or something, and And that's something I've neglected to do. Even as an airport manager on a mower, I should have one on as a vest, And that also brings up another point. Occasionally we have a lawnmower on the field, and just another element out there.
Another obstacle.
Another obstacle. It tends to be right in the middle of the runway. And it blends in, it's green.
Yeah, and I'll add this that we've talked about this last year. It's let's say you're base to final, you're flying the airplane and you're talking on the radio. You got one hand on the spoiler, one hand on the stick, and you're holding the handheld. So you're doing some juggling for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I'll build on what you're saying, Tom, is with this discussion, one thing that it does highlight, and it is a broader club thing, but there are clubs out there that every club glider has a radio built into it for all the reasons we've been talking about today.
Yeah, some of the like your ship, you have a boom and you got to push the talk on your yoke. Problem solved. But the trainers and et cetera, and what we have on the 126s and et cetera. Yeah. So, and I've had talked to students and, they barely soloed and now they have to be very articulate with the radio and spoilers and fly the airplane and obviously fly, aviate.
It's something to consider for the club.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, for sure. But yeah, a lot of good points taken. And I like what Pete said, lowest common denominator. So if you got a guy, he's brand new, he's never soloed the airplane, you just sign him off. You don't need anybody else with a handheld, pardon my language, bitching at him to get going. Because let's say he's doing his checklist, he's being super careful. Case in point was Isla last year, and he was brand new in Ken's plane. And somebody was egging him on like, hurry. And just like Pete said, lowest common denominator. And whether you're a licensed pilot or you're Ilya in his first flight on that ship, the pilot command is he's in charge. He can't have anyone pushing him around to hurry. That's all I have.
Great job, Kellen.
Good point.
Thank you very much.
That's Colin. Thanks for your time, Colin.
Yeah, I hope that to open its videos so that they can be loaded onto YouTube in some capacity, maybe a Franconia Soaring YouTube channel, ultra high definition, and you can see a lot better and smoother resolution, less choppy. And maybe they could be a teaching tool or a way to lead a discussion, throughout the season. That might be great.
Well, and if you're able, if I provide a Dropbox, it wouldn't be Dropbox exactly, but would you mind uploading these videos to a link that I give you?
Sure.
Then they can be with the recording, sort of like the Philadelphia glider school that they did over the winter. I'm thinking of a similar format to that, so it's familiar to those that took it, and to others that'll be well organized.
That would be excellent. That way they can watch this and they can see our discussion and see where we went with it, and because there is sound to the video, but it gets a little annoying with that flarm going off all the time. So I muted it. So yeah, that would be excellent.
Sweet.
Thank you, Max, for recording.
Thank you for presenting. It was great. Thanks, Colin.
I think that was a great first night, everybody. I forgot who was up next week. What, the 18th? Who's our next victim, Colin?
Our next victim is me. Unfortunately, I don't have the video show that you're watching tonight, but I'll be putting on talking about stalls and an accident that took place some years ago. And also, I believe Chuck will be spending some time talking about some scenarios also. That's next Wednesday at 7.